What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. Super excited about this video. If you're new to us and we're new to you, make sure you scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
So the 2023 Rugby World Cup is happening right now, actually. South Africa is playing, and they're doing well. They've only lost one match, and they look likely to make it into the knockout rounds. But what has been so amazing this year, for probably the first time in this country's history, is to watch the Springboks thrill an entire nation. If you've been on social media, you would have seen so many South Africans saying, I've never watched this game before, but I'm obsessed. I'm into it. I can't get away from it. And there are a bunch of reasons for this. Firstly, South Africa is very, very good. Secondly, we are the defending world champions. We won the last Rugby World Cup in 2019. But South Africa's been good at rugby for a long time. We won our first World Cup in the 90s. We won another one in 2007. So the question is, what's changed? And I think for many people, the reason is this. From 2019, when that Springboks team won the World Cup, led by the extraordinary captain Siya Kolisi, who has become a world-famous person. He's one of those few players who's transcended rugby to just become a superstar. He gets stopped in the street by fans. Gerard Butler, the iconic Sparta actor, is one of his biggest supporters. Jurgen Klopp, the iconic coach of Liverpool, loves him. And he is a deeply grounded, empathic, sensitive, smart, great leader on the field, but also for the public, where he knows that part of his job is to inspire and rally the country. So that was part of the reason in 2019. But another reason why 2019 was so different is that the team was full of incredible players of color. We had Cheslin Colby and Makazole Mapimpi on the wing. We had Lucanio in the center. We had the likes of Bongi Mbonambi in the starting pack. This was the first time that the Springboks looked like South Africa. It looks like a team where no matter where you are, where you came from in South Africa, you could find someone who looked like you, sounded like you, came from an area like you, spoke like you in that team, and then they won. And very few people thought the Springboks would win that World Cup. It was a big surprise to lots and lots of pundits, and there was a lot of controversy around picking many of those players of color at all. Because the Springboks, even in their last World Cup win in 2007, were a predominantly white team. And there'd been a lot of controversy in the build-up to the 2019 World Cup because there'd been explicit expectations that more black and colored players would be introduced into the team. And this kind of like sense of like, oh, they're being race quotas meant that some people said, but they're not picking the best players. Maybe they're passing over white players who are better than players of color because of some kind of political motivation, and it's making the team worse. And so it was a massive deal that all of these players of color, when given opportunities, were valued members, match winners. Both of our try scorers in the last World Cup final were of color. It's a huge deal that when given these opportunities, they proved that they were the best and they were part of the best team. And that wasn't the only debate that raged before the 2019 World Cup. There was a huge ongoing public debate about whether or not the emblem, the logo, the Springbok, whether that as the representation of our South African national rugby team should be changed to something else, anything else. And that debate over whether or not the Springbok could ever come to represent and mean something for all South Africans is exactly where we find the tortured, messy history of the South African national rugby team. Rugby was brought to South Africa in the mid-1800s by British settlers, and it was literally known as the gentleman's game. Because even in England today, you will find that rugby is generally played by very posh, rich, elite schools, darling, that speak like this. So only the very best schools and the most elite, expensive, and for white kids only schools in what would then become South Africa started playing rugby from the late 1800s. There were tours of teams, generally like club teams from different countries around the British Empire. So a British team would come down from London and they'd play like an assembled team from local clubs and schools. And the Springboks, well, they weren't called that then, they started playing in a green kit after wearing one in a particular tour when they adopted the kit from a school in Cape Town called Diocesan College, also known as Bishops. So by the early 1900s, the South African War happens, the Brits win, but they want to create a reconciliation with Boers, with Afrikaners, because they want to build a country together where all white people rule over people of color together. So for the first time, a team, a national rugby team is created to tour Britain, comprised of players who are English and players who are Afrikaans, Anglos and Boers in one team. So this team of white players who would have been on opposite sides of the war land in London to play and suddenly realize that the British media, the press, the newspapers, often create incredibly insulting nicknames for teams that then stick. And their team didn't have a nickname, they didn't have a logo, they didn't have a symbol, something to call themselves by. And so in a quick...
Hold on, before he get into that. So, the same year that they had the war is the same year that they got together to create the team?
Sound like the same year they had the wars, the same year they tried to reintroduce them as a, like, back into the loop of what the team was offering. It's like, we want y'all, we want to stop this, we want y'all to play on our team.
We could work together.
Yeah, we could work together, so, you know what I'm saying?
That's a quick, that's a quick apology.
Yeah, it is.
But okay.
I feel like being that they're in South Africa and the team was predominantly white at one point, it's like, how? You know what I mean? But we understand what the history of South Africa was offering at that time and how it looked at. So that makes sense and that kind of clears it up.
Yeah, all the way still in 2007. But again, that's like, you know, when we were reacting to some of the history of South Africa, it's just a realization that, you know, what they are going with, South Africa is like 30 years behind in terms of like segregation than the United States.
Right.
So it's like we have to constantly remind ourselves, hey, we can't look at it from our lens. We got to look at it through what they went through.
South Africa's history.
Right. So when I say 2000, when I hear it was still an all-white team in 2007, it's like, you know, some time have to pass before, you know, those relationships are mended. Well, not even mended. What would you call it?
I guess you could call it like
created anew.
Created anew is nice. I think we're knocking on the right door.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I'm more happy with them being more diverse now with the times that have came in. I mean, and winning the World Cup.
Yeah.
With a you know, a diverse team. You know what I'm saying? So that's a beautiful thing now to see.
Yes, a rainbow nation. That's what it need to look like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and shout out to my man's bro. He rocking all them hats. He
and
killing
the jersey.
it. He's dripped out.
Jersey.
Fit of panic, the legend goes that the team got together and decided that they would call themselves die Springbokken, which is like the Dutch. The English version is the Springboks, because it's an antelope that is native to South Africa, and everyone felt good about the fact that this little bokkie could represent what it meant to be from this part of the world, and so they called themselves the Springboks, and we're the Springboks. That's how it happened.
Apartheid.
So the project of South Africa's national rugby team was fundamentally racist from the start. The green and gold of the Springboks was only for white players and only existed to celebrate white people and represent them in our best teams. And it got even more intense once apartheid started in 1948. The ruling National Party, the Afrikaner Apartheid group, decided that the Springbok and playing for the Springboks and wearing the green and gold would come to represent Afrikaner values of being the best perfect version of a white Afrikaner man. And for the National Party, the Springboks, being a good team and doing well, did a lot of work to prove civilization, that the Afrikaner-led South Africa was worthy of being considered an elite, proper, worthy of respect white nation. No people of color were allowed to wear what was considered the sacred green and gold jersey. It would besmirch it in the eyes of the racists. Then in the 1960s, there was a massive move to get South Africa kicked out of international sporting codes. They were banned from the 1964 Olympics because the world wanted to take a stand by excluding South Africa from sport, and the boycott was wider than that. It was music, it was culture, it was also academic boycott because of the racist Afrikaner ruling party that was so badly oppressing and treating people of color in this country. And South Africa did get isolated. They managed to get 2 tours through for the Springboks, both times of New Zealand in 1965 and 1981, which received heavy backlash and loud protests. And then the International Rugby Board did ban South Africa from all play from 1984 until 1992, which is why South Africa didn't compete in the early Rugby World Cup competitions. And rugby really was the white man's game, particularly the Afrikaners project. Many English young white South Africans played cricket, it because of the colonial British fetish fantasy that continues to exist in South Africa. As recently as 31 years ago, when South Africa's rugby team was allowed out of isolation because it looked like apartheid was ending, they played a match against New Zealand, the All Blacks, at Ellis Park in Johannesburg, South Africa. And there was racism on full display. People were belting out Die Stem in its fullness, which is largely now seen as a song of pride in the racial superiority project done by the apartheid government, and they were holding up the old South African flag with all of its racist connotations. That was only 31 years ago. Then apartheid ends. Nelson Mandela decides he's going to endorse projects of South African sport to try to build pride. He was seen at Bafana Bafana games, at Proteas games, and iconically when South Africa hosted the 1995 Rugby World Cup. And he was there, standing next to Francois Pienaar as South Africa's captain lifted the Webb Ellis Cup into the sky to crown South Africa world champions. Now, unsurprisingly, in that Springbok team, there was only one player of colour, the legendary Chester Williams. And that's because not only were South Africans of colour not allowed to play for the Springboks or play in whites-only leagues or tournaments during apartheid, they were denied facilities and training and formalised professional structures, which allows for nutrition and exercise that allows people with great talent to turn themselves into world-class players. And as the years went by, there was a small trickle, but it was very slow, of players of colour playing for the Springboks. And the debate raged that South Africa maybe should get rid of the Springbok logo. Not necessarily the green and gold, because that has been widely accepted across South African sporting codes as a colour combo to represent our country. But specifically the Springbok, because of its representation of white supremacy for millions of South Africans during apartheid. And as Springbok rugby teams continued to turn out with overwhelmingly white players, it kind of rubbed salt into the wound that we were all now expected to support this team that was supposed to represent the whole country. And it just didn't look like it did, and it still had the trappings of the old, evil, oppressive representation of white supremacy. The 2007 Rugby World Cup final, which we won, was a little bit better. We had a handful more excellent players of colour in the team. Brian Habana is the iconic example, but there still weren't very many. And for many South Africans of colour who had started supporting New Zealand, the All Blacks, during apartheid, because they just wanted to support anybody but the Springboks, even after the 2007 World Cup, many South Africans of colour still refused to support their own national team. And then slowly, efforts to open up the sport began to bear fruit. More and more young black players who for the first time had been given significant opportunities to play rugby started to come through the training systems and be quite good, and then very good, and then the best that South Africa had to offer. In particular, black players from the Eastern Cape, Xhosa players like Siya Kolisi and Makazole Mapimpi. And suddenly, the debate around the Springboks started to change, because more and more people started to look at the Springboks and see people who looked, sounded, spoke like, and were raised like them. But still, the naysayers naysayed. And that is why the 2019 World Cup was such a transformative moment for South Africa. Going into that World Cup, there were still millions of South Africans, particularly black ones.
Let me stop real quick, man. That's just a hard way. I mean, it's difficult to... It's not difficult because we understand what segregation looks like on our end, and when people are divided between the two, you can't be on a bus, you can't sit in a restaurant. Yeah. Wanting your position that you're, obviously granted to have, you just got people in front of you keep telling you that you're not good enough for that.
Right.
And that sucks, man. I could hear how he's explaining it, that this is what a lot of black and colored people in Africa went through.
Right. And the fact that this wasn't so long ago.
Facts.
This is only what... This is the second win.
From 2020.
The first one was 2019 that changed all of their viewpoints about it. But this is the second win. Mm-hmm. So now that makes it even more like, yes,
intense.
They needed this. They deserved it.
Nah, facts.
So he's explaining it to the T.
I love it.
Perfect. How do y'all feel about the Springbok? If they would have had to change the logo, they probably would have had to change the name too. The nickname, of course.
I mean, but he said it was about white supremacy with the logo. And I think, like, with them wanting to take it off at one point, it made sense. But then being able to wear the jersey and showing them that...
The colors and stuff.
What you're doing is not going to age well.
Right.
And we're going to kill it. Right. Regardless of what, you know what I'm saying? So it's
but
like...
they created a new meaning.
Exactly. You gotta.
So what a Springbok is.
You gotta.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody was screaming in their pillow when they seen that first black man in that jersey. For real.
care about rugby who didn't resonate with the Springboks. They needed a champion. They needed a revolutionary moment of a team of black and white players, and obviously colored also. I'm talking about everybody here. And they got it because the Springboks won deservedly. They overcame and defeated everyone. And for the first time, the Springboks meant all of South Africa, all kinds of South Africans. So now in this 2023 Rugby World Cup, it feels so different because the whole country, or at least way more of the country than ever before, is dialed in, locked in, and love obsessed with our national rugby team. That still has what is now a remade, re-understood representation from what it did for like nearly 100 years. And that is incredible. That is such a wild, weird, miraculous thing to happen. And it happens quite often in South Africa, where you look around and you find ways that this new country with its new energy and hope and vision have managed to transform really awful things from our history into having new symbols and new meaning in the present for a new generation of South Africans who are trying to make a different kind of world and country for ourselves. So that's the issue with the Springboks, how this excellent team that is remarkable in its ability to unite its fan base, a country together, is actually an extraordinary story of overcoming, of fundamentally changing and renewing an awful past and its symbolism into something that delights and inspires so many South Africans. Thank you so much for watching.
Man, that was well put, man. Hey, make sure you guys check his channel out, bro. At the end of the day, it's like we don't want to be misrepresented. And I felt like this the black and the colored people in Africa were 100%. Yeah, I'm sorry. The black and the colored people in South Africa were definitely misrepresented when it came to wanting to be a part of something that I felt that was supposed to represent the whole South Africa. You know what I mean? So
yeah. The only thing I can kind of relate this to, and obviously it's two total different things. Here would be our national anthem. A lot of people don't know about the third stanza in our national anthem, and it's basically a slap in the face to all of our black people who fought against the rebels of the Revolutionary War. So it's kind of like that, because we still sing the national anthem, but we just don't sing the third part.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, creating a new meaning to move forward.
You just threw the whole bowling ball down there.
It's not exactly the same, but it's...
Nah, you knocked down the pins. That's basically... Nah, I felt that. That's real talk.
Yeah, and y'all already know we sing it at every game, regardless if it's another country.
Ah, man, it's sad, bro. Yeah, country to country, place to place, we all walk in a line here, bro.
Yeah.
And I feel like we all can, match energies with history.
Yeah, South Africa, like, the more we learn about it, like, even just this, I didn't even think about the history of this rugby team.
Not at all.
And y'all know how I feel about reacting to y'all apartheid stuff. I'm like, I don't want to do it no more.
But hey, this was part of the story.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like you guys will always introduce something to us, and then we'll always go into the history of it before we go into the actual facts of how today is.
Yeah, yeah.
And this one we missed. We didn't see that coming.
Didn't see it.
Didn't
all
see
right.
that coming.
So South Africa was well deserving once
Facts.
again.
Congratulations to that big W.
Yes, y'all. Y'all made it known that y'all can do it again. All right, back to back. All right, so congratulations once again for winning the World Cup. Yeah, enjoy your festivities and things, and we hope you guys enjoy this video with us. Make sure you subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.